Hey folks, Dave Delavante here, and I just wanted to give you a little summary of some of the things that I learned from a fantastic book that I just read. And the name of that book is called Healthy for Life, and Healthy for Life is written by a gentleman named Dr. Ray Strand. And Dr. Ray Strand is he's a great guy, a man of character, and just an incredible wealth of knowledge. And he wrote this book, Healthy for Life, and the subtitle of it is Developing Healthy Lifestyles that have a side effect of permanent fat loss. And I think that's what the world is missing today. We're all searching for a diet. You know, I always tell people diets are kind of evil because the first three letters in the word diet are die, right? So we don't want to get involved with that, right? But this is a healthy lifestyle that actually leads to permanent fat loss, and that's actually what everyone's looking for anyway. And he basically goes through sort of four tenets, or four legs of a table, if you will, that hold the table up. And the first leg is journaling. And you think, oh, journaling, I have to write down what I'm doing? This is terrible. But actually, it's very, very important, because when you document things, first of all, you can hold each other accountable. You can look at each other's journals, or you can just look at your own journal, or just knowing that someone might look at it will hold you accountable. And it's very helpful for yourself if you have a good week or a bad week in your new lifestyle changes that you're encountering here, to determine, oh wow, well last week I didn't do as well maybe with losing some inches or losing some weight or feeling healthier or getting stronger, but maybe it's because I didn't drink enough water, because I wrote that down in my journal. So the idea is, if you journal things that you do that are very important as far as this healthy lifestyle goes, it's going to help you, it's going to benefit you greatly. So the things you want to do is you want to write down what time you woke up, you want to write down what time you went to bed, you want to write down how much water you drank. And I will give you an example for myself. I should be drinking about 100 ounces of water. Now you can go online, if you just Google the word hydration calculator, that'll pretty much give you a good idea. You just answer a few questions: how much do you weigh, what kind of climate do you live in, your level of activity, and things like that, and it will tell you. But generally speaking, about 100 ounces. So if you get those, regular 16-ounce bottle of water, that's 6 of those a day. And the goal here is to gradually build up to a healthy lifestyle. So don't worry if you can't do everything right away. But some people are only drinking a half a bottle of water a day right now. Well, try to work your way up to a bottle, and then 2, and then 3, and eventually maybe get up to those 6. So again, Google the word hydration calculator, and then put in your data and see what it tells you. But it probably is going to come out somewhere around 100 ounces of water or so. So we want you to journal your water intake. We also want you to journal what you eat during the day. And we'd like for you to eat every 3 hours if possible. Even if you're not hungry, it's a good idea to have a snack every 3 hours. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So journaling is number one. The second one is exercise. Now people get all scared about this one. They think, oh my goodness, I got to go to the gym and start pumping iron or running 12 miles a day or something like that. And that's not the case at all. What we're really looking for is just subtle changes. And if you do no exercise whatsoever, if you have a very sedentary lifestyle, like a couch potato, if you will, all we're going to ask is that you try to walk about 30 minutes 3 times a week. Now they say the hardest thing to do as far as exercise goes is actually just putting on your sneakers. It's kind of getting started. Well, I'll give you a clue. If you put on your sneakers and you walk 15 minutes away from your house, you're going to have to walk 15 minutes back. So that's the goal here. If you can walk away from your house 15 minutes and back, that's a 30-minute walk. Do that 3 times a week. That would be a great start, because if you're not doing any exercise right now, that's a lot of aerobic activity. That's wonderful. Now, if you already are doing some kind of exercise, then you might want to just add 10 minutes of aerobics on there, or add 10 minutes more of weight-bearing exercise or whatever. But again, just subtle changes that you can make over, let's say, a 12-week period can really change your life and change the life of your kids and your kids' kids as you teach them these general principles here. It's also very important, by the way, when you're doing exercise, to have a combination of weight-bearing and more aerobic-type exercises. If you go out and you walk a treadmill or you bike for an hour, you're going to burn a lot of calories. That's very aerobic. It's good for the heart and all that. However, you also need to do some weight-bearing exercises, whether it's just calisthenics or push-ups or lifting some small weights or whatever. Those type of activities actually help drive calcium into your bones. They actually help build muscle. And when you build muscle, by the way, muscle burns fat. So the more muscle you have in your body, the faster you burn fat. So if you actually have a really good workout and you're building muscle, you will actually burn fat while you're sleeping. I know it sounds like magic, but it really does work. So anyway, so that's your second leg, if you will. So we want you to journal. That's the first thing. We want you to exercise. That's the second thing. And then we also want you to eat low glycemic. All right. Now, when you're eating low glycemic, what do we mean by that? Well, there's a few things we mean. Glycemic index is basically the speed at which a food turns to sugar. All right. Now, how do you know that? Well, the problem is you really can't tell by reading labels, and I'll give you a couple of examples here. If you, for instance, look at oatmeal, and you look at the labels on various products of oatmeal. Let's say you have some instant oatmeal that you can find in the store, and then you might have some 10-minute oatmeal that comes in those bins like this, or you might have steel-cut oatmeal, which is a more whole grain type of an oatmeal. Now, if you look at the labels, they're almost identical. Same amount of carbs, same amount of sodium, same amount of calories, everything. They look pretty much identical. However, the one that's instant is high glycemic. It's going to raise and lower your blood sugar very, very quickly. Your insulin is going to have to pump up very, very quickly, and then you gradually over time become resistant to your own insulin. And I'm not saying you're going to be diabetic, but it's a pre-diabetic disposition when you start tampering with your insulin levels up and down very, very rapidly. You do that for 20 years, very often you'll become at least have metabolic syndrome, or syndrome X as we call it. In other words, and there's a lot more, by the way, when you read through this book, the Healthy for Life book by Dr. Ray Strand, you'll pick up on a lot more of these details. And there's lists in there of what a high and low glycemic food is. Now, interestingly, if you eat the steel-cut oatmeal with your breakfast instead of the instant oatmeal, again, same number of calories, roughly the same number of carbs, and yet the steel-cut oatmeal will not spike your blood sugar, so your insulin stays at a much more narrow range. And the goal is really not calorie restriction. The goal is, if you want to lose weight, is to make sure that you're eating low glycemic. Now, the couple of websites you can go to. You can go to glycemicindex.com, and that will give you the glycemic index of certain foods. You can, if you Google glycemic index, you'll see a lot of different websites out there. The Healthy for Life book actually has foods in here that are low, moderate, and high on the glycemic index chart. And it gets a little more complicated than that, because there is also such a thing as a glycemic load. Glycemic load is like the glycemic index times the amount of calories or the amount of carbohydrates, the amount I guess calories would be the easiest way to describe it. It's really carbohydrates. But here's an example. Vegetables in general don't have a lot of calories to them. So if you look at broccoli or you look at carrots, well, carrots have a higher glycemic index. And some people say, well, I don't want to eat a lot of carrots then, because they have a very high glycemic index. Well, compared to broccoli, yes, they have a higher glycemic index, but the glycemic load is extremely low. The reason for that is, with glycemic load, it's the glycemic index times the amount of calories or the amount of carbohydrates that are actually in there. And frankly, a carrot just doesn't have enough calories to give it a high enough load. So carrots are absolutely fine. Now, here's one more interesting thing. This would apply to carrots, this would apply to pasta, this would apply to oatmeal, and things like that. The amount of cooking time will affect the glycemic index as well. So in general, we want you to cook the food, like if you're making pasta, make it al dente, which is a slightly stiff pasta. That has a lower glycemic index. If you cook it softer, it has a higher glycemic index. The same is true with carrots. If the carrots are still raw carrots, very low glycemic index. If you cook them, they get medium. If you cook them a lot and they get mushy, then all of a sudden it starts turning into a high glycemic index. So you got to watch your cooking times as well. In general, a good way to look at the glycemic index is the more processed the food is, the higher the glycemic index is going to be. And also you want to avoid some general categories like potatoes, white potatoes. You want to avoid pastas, and you want to avoid breads. And there's only a few exceptions to that. One is breads, and I will tell you that Ezekiel breads, you find them in the frozen food section of most stores. I use Ezekiel 4.9, which is in an orange wrapper. They also make a sprouted grain bread, which is in a red wrapper, and they even make a raisin bread as well, which is very good. And these are actually sprouted grain bread, so they're real whole grains, and that's very, very important. That actually has a low glycemic index. Almost every other bread is off limits. The reason is, even our wheat breads, or what we call wheat breads, are really just white bread with refined flours in them, except they use caramel coloring to make them darker, and you think you're getting more of a whole wheat, and you're really not. The bottom line is, if you can take the bread, the inside of the bread, not the crust, but if you can take the inside and kind of squeeze it and it forms a ball and you could actually throw it at someone, that's probably not a good plan. That probably means that it's very doughy, very high glycemic, also high gluten as well. So anyway, that's just some basic information on glycemic index for you. But again, Google the word glycemic index, get a copy of the Healthy for Life book. There's also several books out there on low glycemic eating that you can get as well. So hopefully that'll help you out as far as that goes. We have actually at USANA Health Sciences, which is the company that I'm a distributor for, we have something called a reset system. And the reset system is kind of neat because it takes all the guesswork. If all this glycemic talk is getting you crazy, you can use Reset, which is a 5-day system of shakes and bars. So you're basically having shakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You're having snack bars in between. You can have other fruits and vegetables. It comes with a DVD that explains the entire system for you, which is very nice. And it gives you 5 days worth of supplements as well, which is actually the fourth leg that I'm going to talk about in a moment. So it gives you everything in one box with a DVD that explains the entire thing. So I like to start people off with that. The average person will lose about 5 pounds. And the nice thing about it is the weight loss is not muscle and it's not water. It's actual fat, and typically it's from the midsection, which is where most people gain their weight, and that's what we consider killer fat or insulin-resistant fat. You really want to get rid of that. If your waist is starting to grow, that is a sign that you're going to be more apt to have heart disease, more apt to die prematurely of various diseases. So you want to get your waist measurement down as well as your body fat percentage down as well. Now, the fourth leg that I just alluded to is supplementation. And what will happen is, if you do 3 out of these 4 legs, you'll lose some weight. If you do 2 out of these 4 legs, you might lose some weight. If you do all 4, it's like 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 20. It really adds up. It's a very synergistic effect between this journaling and the exercise, the low glycemic eating, and the supplements. The problem with supplements is most of them out there, frankly, are garbage. There's not a lot in them. So on my blog, actually, on one of the other articles on my blog is actually how to choose a good supplement, and it gives you some guidelines. But the bottom line is you want a very well-rounded potency. In other words, you don't want RDA levels. You want levels that have been proven to be effective with not just vitamin deficiency diseases. You want things that are going to help you in fighting off the heart disease and the cancer and everything else in the future. And there's a lot of studies out there that show that you really need probably 400 to 450 units, for instance, of vitamin E, 15,000 units of beta-carotene, numbers like that. So you want to make sure it's a very potent product. You also want to make sure, though, that it's a very pure product, that they have some kind of a guarantee that actually what is on what's in the actual pill is what it says on the label. They're exactly the same. And you also want to make sure that it's very well balanced. And I find USANA's products to be the absolute best balance. Best quality, quantity, and balance, frankly, bar none around the world. Just a fantastic product line. So you want to make sure you're on a very potent antioxidant. And the reason for that, and the reason why that's so important as the fourth leg of this new healthy lifestyle that you're going to live, is there are certain minerals like chromium, for instance, that helps very much with weight loss. There are things like essential fats, like your omega oils, that we simply don't get enough of because we don't eat enough of the cold water fish that we need to eat. A lot of it is farm raised, and you're simply not getting the omega oils, or we don't eat enough fish in general. So we want to make sure that you're getting some omega oils. You want to make sure you're on a good calcium magnesium supplement as well. So when you get all of these supplements in you, your body simply has an easier time of detoxing. So as your body tends to store all of its nasty stuff in fat. It's very smart. God's given you an ability to protect yourself. So if you eat things with toxins in them, we all know there's a lot of toxins in our food now, and pesticides and chemicals and things like that, and we're breathing them in. Instead of storing it in your brain or storing it in your liver or other organs, your body tries to hide it away, and it puts it in fat cells. Now, what the bottom line is, that can harm you as you're losing weight, because all of a sudden you're losing fat cells, and the bad stuff has to go somewhere. So what happens is, if you're on a very good antioxidant, then the antioxidant helps you by drawing away those bad toxins and things like that. So, and your body will naturally, instead of being in an oxidated state, it's because of all the antioxidants, it's going to get healthier. One other point that's kind of a fine point, but most people don't realize, is you really want to make sure that as you're taking supplements, that your supplements are very alkaline-based or alkaline-forming. Many supplements out there, if you get the standard ones that you hear advertised all over the place, or some of the chains that sell vitamins and things like that, they're pretty much they're very acidic to your body, or acid forming to your body. You want things that are alkaline forming to your body, because your body can stay in a much healthier state when it's like that. So So let me just review a couple things for you. First of all, I would recommend that everyone go ahead and get Healthy for Life. It's a great book. I would recommend that, and by the way, the author is Dr. Ray Strand, and you can get this book, there's a couple different websites, but if you just Google Dr. Ray Strand, you'll find him on Amazon, you'll find him on his own site, which is drraystrand.com. There's also, he's got a site called bionutrition.org, you can look there. Any one of those sites, you can find his book. So I'd recommend getting a copy of that and just really reading through it thoroughly. And then make sure that you follow all 4 legs of this plan. Okay, so you want to journal, you want to write down everything you're doing so you can kind of analyze it. You want to exercise. Again, light exercise is fine to start with. We're not asking you to become Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything like that. We just want you to add in or add a little bit more to whatever level you were doing. Okay. Then you want to focus on low glycemic eating, and you want to focus on eating every 3 hours and making sure you're drinking, probably in most people's cases, at least 6 bottles of water a day, about 100 ounces of water a day. And again, you can look that up. And then the 4th leg is supplementation. Make sure you're taking a very high quality, high potency antioxidant while you're doing this whole process, and actually for life. And the idea here is this is not a diet. This is not, the reason why people, why diets fail is people go on a diet and then they go off a diet. If you're going to go on something, you're going to go off something, right? Well, this is a lifestyle change. This is something for life. You're going to be taking supplements for life. You're going to be eating low glycemic for life. You're going to have an exercise program that you can live with for life, which again, there's no rush. There's no reason to go out there and go crazy and run a marathon next week. This is a lifelong plan that you're putting together. The journaling, you might not have to journal forever because you're going to form habits over the first 12 weeks. But journaling is a good idea from a spiritual standpoint and a physical standpoint as well, obviously. So, but this is a lifestyle. And the beauty of this is it's not just for you. This is something that you can teach generations. This is really something that your kids and your kids' kids are going to pick up on. I mean, my children are already picking up better habits because I've changed my habits, and you can really affect generationally and truly leave a legacy for people. So anyway, I hope you found this time well spent. This is just a summary. I'm going to have probably more of these, and I'll put them on my blog and try to get them out to y'all. But that was just a summary, and we're going to talk more in the future on how much protein to eat and your balancing and other ways of making foods that would otherwise be high glycemic than low glycemic, and a few other tricks and that sort of thing. But for now, I think I don't want to overwhelm you guys too much. Just take care, God bless you, and live healthy.